Hi, today we're here to do a recipe makeover, and the recipe is called turkey tetrazzini, and the ingredients for it include spaghetti, turkey, condensed cream of chicken soup, shredded cheese, onion soup mix, Worcestershire sauce, salt, and Parmesan cheese. But the client that we have is, or might be, lactose intolerant, might have a gluten sensitivity. So what I've decided to do is recreate this recipe that will be gluten-free and dairy-free. And I've done that by, instead of using just regular spaghetti, I've chosen to use a brown rice pasta spaghetti that is really very good. And to cook the spaghetti, it says that you should cook it for 14 to 15 minutes. Now, because we're kind of cooking the spaghetti and then putting it into this dish, we actually want to cook it for less than that amount of time. We want it to really be al dente, so I've only cooked it for about 9.5 minutes, because the rest of the time it's going to cook inside the dish or bake in the oven. Now, I didn't have any turkey leftovers, but I did have chicken, and I've decided to use chicken instead. Either one is fine. You can really use any of them. And the condensed cream of chicken soup is very fattening. It's filled with a lot of additives and chemicals that we don't want to use. So what I've done instead is I've used something that is kuzu root starch. And just so that you see what that is, this is kind of like a cornstarch, but it's from a kuzu root. And if you can see, these are just like little white granules. I diluted this in some water, so it's right here, and you mix it up, and you want it to be a thick consistency. That's going to give it some of its creamy texture. Now, if you don't have kuzu root starch, you can use cornstarch, but I really recommend that you just that you make sure that it's GMO free. You don't want any GMO cornstarch in this. And cheddar cheese, for those people who are lactose intolerant or just don't particularly care for dairy, a good alternative is called the rice shreds. It's mozzarella flavor, but it doesn't have any soy, it doesn't have any dairy, it's lactose and gluten-free, and it also is an excellent source of calcium, and it's cholesterol-free. So this is what we're going to be using. And it calls for an onion soup mix. And a lot of times these mixes have MSG, a lot of other ingredients that might not be as pure as you think that they are. So I actually Googled onion soup mix to make our own. And I didn't have dried onions, but I do have shallots. So I'm going to use these shallot pieces with a little bit of onion powder. I'm adding some paprika and also some parsley to it. And then I'm also going to add an ingredient, let me just get it out of the cabinet here, which is vegetable broth and seasoning. So, whoops, let's get that in there. This is actually a great, it's made, it's all natural. It has no oil, dairy, no artificial flavor enhancer, gluten-free, vegan, and it's really a great thing to use when you want to make any type of a broth that you need in one of your recipes. So we're going to use that, some salt, and those are our ingredients basically. So what I'm starting with is your cooked spaghetti, which I already pre-made because I wanted to make sure that we had time to do this and you didn't have to really wait too long to view all of this. And basically I'm just taking the spaghetti and going to be adding it to a pot right now, because this is where we're going to mix everything. So I'm adding that to the pot. I'm adding the chicken that I have cubed. And as you can see, it's really, I've just taken some cooked chicken and kind of cut them up into pieces. You can use any type of pre-made, ready-made chicken. This is leftover chicken that I made the other day. This is a great recipe to use after Thanksgiving when you have leftover turkey, because you can just, have a new dish for the next day. And let me just take a look at my recipe, which I just put my pot on. So let's see, we're stirring in this condensed milk mixture. And we're going to add the cheese. It's about 1 cup of cheese. So basically what I started with was about 4 ounces of the spaghetti, 2 cups of the chicken, about 2/3 of a cup of the condensed cream of soup, which I made the homemade with the kuzu root and water. I added about 1 cup of cheddar cheese. You might want to add more, a little less, whatever your inclined to do. And for the seasonings, I would say probably about a tablespoon of paprika. You can measure it or you can eyeball it. At this point, having done some cooking for a while, oh, there goes my parsley. I kind of have a gist of what I need. So I'm just eyeballing these ingredients and adding it to this. And I'm going to take some of the seasoning, the chicken soup, I'm sorry, the vegetable broth and seasoning. And I'm going to add that to it. And now it calls for the Worcestershire sauce. I always have trouble saying that word, always. I can't even tell you for how many years. It's become like the bane of my existence whenever I'm cooking. So instead of that, because that actually has corn syrup in it, and I really try to stay away from anything that is genetically modified. So what I've done instead is I use Bragg's liquid aminos. I'm trying to, there you go, you can see it. I'm trying to get it so you don't have the glare from the sun. There's a very sunny day out there. So I use this instead, and I'm only using about a teaspoon. So I kind of just give that a little squirt and a go around. And basically just mixing this all together. And I'll show you what it looks like as soon as it's all mixed. And if you find that, excuse me, I feel like something just flew up from the recipe and went into my throat. If you find that, you know, it needs a little bit more liquid, or it's, or actually a little bit more liquid, because what I'm going to try and show you here, let's see if I can just chip this in. Right now it's a little dry. You can see like there's no liquid on the bottom. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is add a little bit more of this caduceus root, so you can kind of eyeball it when you're cooking yourself. And we just add some water. And mixing that up together. And pouring that in. I'm going to mix this again. It smells really good. All these spices are just really delicious. And you want to make sure, especially with the rice cheese, it sometimes tends to get clumped. It sometimes tends to get a little clumped, so you just want to make sure that it's really mixed well in there. And last thing I'm going to do is take it and I'm going to transfer into a little casserole dish. Make sure I don't get any on me and that it goes in here. The pot's really heavy. Let me just, there we go. Now you can see, so I'm pouring it all inside. Now you can see some of the liquid that's coming out, which is good, which is what we want. And just can see a little bit. See, that's what it looks like there. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit more of the rice shredded cheese on top, just to finish it off. Not a lot, you know, just a little, because we don't have the Parmesan cheese. So we'll have a little bit of that. And that's it. That's the dish. We're going to bake it in a 350-degree oven, uncovered, for 25 to 30 minutes, or until it's a little bubbly. So we'll see you as soon as it's done. Okay, so it's about 25 minutes later, and I've just taken it out. I'm grabbing another pot holder because it's really hot. Just want to show you. This is what it looks like. It is delicious. So we have the brown rice spaghetti, some of the rice cheese, and the chicken cubes, all mixed up. Now, the thing to note about this dish is when you make it, if it seems, check it after about 15 minutes. If it seems like it's a little dry, all you have to do is add a little bit more water to it. But now, the taste test. So let me just go grab a plate, and I'm going to scoop some on, see how this all tastes before I hand it to my kids for their dinner tonight. Let me grab a fork here. And here we go, a little taste test. Oh, it's hot. Very good. All the flavors, all those spices that I added, amazing what you can do with just a few ingredients, and this is definitely a keeper. So enjoy, and if you have any questions, feel free to email me.